Everybody, it's Tiger here with
Jakai.
His
Dark Irregular deck profile.
Now this is post V-BT04.
I mean, I don't remember, so I hope
Yeah, I guess it's 4 because it's only been this is 4.
Post the one that came with these cards in it.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so you can start.
All right. So obviously the most important card being Vermilion Gatekeeper, since you can't play without a starter. Then to the start of the deck being Dontarian, which run 4 copies of him. He is my new favorite only because he allows you to build numbers across your entire field, whereas Dr. Regular can only really build numbers on 1 or 2 cards at a time. Also, he allows you to, if you're stuck on him, he allows you to just stall by intercepting out of your soul, which helps when we go into another card later. Just overall good card, and he soul charges like crazy every single time. I believe it's when one of my opponent's rear guards is retired, he'll soul charge an extra 2 cards. If a grade 2 or higher card is soul charged, you'll get +5 to 3 cards, and that's not once per turn, so it's going to stack every time it happens. So that includes even the cards that put themselves into souls for their own effects. Simple as that. Then we have 3 of No Life King, because even though Dontarian is our main, No Life King is kind of our finisher here, but we still want to see him multiple times, so he's not a bad ride to go into, especially when he leads into a re-ride and 4 drive checks. But he also helps combo into the finishing grade 3s, so you generally want to save him until you want to try to kill your opponent, whereas this is the one you want to be on for most of the game. We already know what he does. Push a few cards in the soul, rewrite another Vanguard out of your soul, give it a crit. And for the 2 finishing ones right here, we have Demon Eater and Master of 5th Element. Now, I only run 1 of them each because we're just trying to, as fast as you can, push these guys into soul. So even if they appear in damage, we can still get them back into soul. If they appear in drop, well, they shouldn't go into the drop. They should go straight into soul. But when they go into soul, they're there just to be called by No Life King when we're trying to kill them. Demon Eater is a little harder to set up because she still requires another counter blast as well as soul charging 1 more rear guard. But she gets +10, draws a card, soul charges a card, as well as makes it that way your opponent cannot perfect guard. So if you're going against another protect deck and you know they have protects in their hand and you're going in for a crazy number like with a Doreen behind her, then you can call her. And you, thanks to Dontarian and the other cards, you can easily have more than enough soul to meet the soul blast of 10, and just swing for game with the crit that No Life King gives it, and not being able to perfect guard. My personal favorite finisher being the Master of 5th Element, which when you drop him, you have to be sure that you're trying to kill though, because if you don't kill it and you drop him, you're going to die. But his effect is that when he's rolled as the Vanguard, you basically drop your hand in the entirety of your soul, restand him, and, well, when after he attacks, restand him and all of your rear guards. Now, the best thing about this is that ideally you will go off of a No Life King, have a few Doreens if you can, or at least 1 Doreen behind him. Doreen gets pumped up to the stupid numbers, and you ride with No Life King, who also has stupid numbers, attack with him, do your drive checks, go with him, and then he'll have a crit. He'll attack boosted by Doreen for another crazy number. You attack maybe with another Doreen for crazy numbers. And then he'll stand himself back up and you have another swing with an extremely strong Vanguard with crit, as well as another Doreen swinging again, or whatever rear guards you may also still have. Which, again, this still leads through 6 different drive checks. So a lot of chances to kill your opponent with this card. But he has to be played right. If played wrong, it will backfire. And that's it for the grade 3s. Move on to the grade 2s. First, we have 4 of Flirtatious Succubus. I was playing around with her at 3 and then eventually just bumped her up to 4 just because of how good she is off of Dontarian. By putting herself into soul and retiring, she triggers both of Dontarian's main effects. She'll get you about a soul charge of 3 just from using her effect. And her effect allows her you can keep recycling her out of your soul by adding her right back to your hand and doing her effect again. So every single turn while you're on Dontarian, you're going to be able to get your card off if you've seen this. If you rolled into it, if you had it in your hand, if you caught it, if you did whatever, you're going to still be able to see this card and have it do what it needs to do. And basically, this deck just ends up making you feel like you're either a Kagero player or a or a Shadow Paladin player, how many times you're going to be retiring your opponent's rear guards with these cards. Next one we have Ruthven. Ruthven is still kind of one of my favorite units in this deck, where he basically helps you, like if cards that you need go into the drop or into damage, he is the one that helps get them back into your soul. Now, he used to primarily be a counter charger, but now we have a new counter charger that works a bit better with the deck. He can basically be freed up to use his full potential as correcting cards that are in the wrong place and putting them into the soul where they need to be. And again, you're playing Dark Irregular, so putting cards in the soul is always a good thing, especially for free. The next one we have is, Dark Soul Conductor, and his effect is entirely just to be used as intercept fodder from within the soul. Because when he intercepts, he gains another plus 10, so he becomes a 15k. And because of Dontarian allowing you to intercept from soul, if you get these into soul, you'll be able to just drop these out and not have to drop anything from your hand. Also, you can avoid certain cards that you have to drop at least 2 cards from your hand just by calling him out of your rear guard, just by calling him out of your soul. He might get bumped up to 4, honestly, because using him has proven very helpful in multiple situations. And another thing is when he gets dropped from the Guardian Circle, he goes to the bottom of the deck. So you can literally get to the part where at the end of the game, if you're in fear of decking out, you can keep cycling him right back into the deck. And he's enough for your draw checks, so you literally won't run out of cards. And for the last few of the grade 2s, we have Authority of Water. And I was arguing about putting her at 3 or 2, but I kind of like her at 2, because again, it's enough to see it. But her effect is simply if one of my opponent's rear guards is retired, you can countercharge. That's all she does. We don't need to talk much more about her, which countercharging is pretty important in the deck now that we have more cards that counterblast. So that's why she's here. And N for the grade 2s, going to the grade 1s, if you're a true Dark Irregular fan, then your favorite unit has to be Doreen the Thruster, and you have to play 4. You have to play 4 of them. Mainly because she is the strongest grade 1 6k unit in the entirety of this game. A very simple effect. Every time a card enters the soul, plus 5k. And again, you soul charge like crazy, because it's a Dark Irregular deck. So oftentimes, she consistently ends up being like plus 40, plus 50k on average. And again, in conjunction with Master Fifth Element, or the rewriting from No Life King, or just basically, you can just attack with her as a strong attacker. And again, very simple effect, very important card, because again, most of the times you're winning with Doreen the Thruster on the field. But not too much more to talk about with her. Another one of the arguably more important units is Dimension Creeper. Its effect is borderline broken in this deck. Where it has the other effect where if you have a grade 3 in soul, it gets plus 5k. And that's a pretty good effect too. It's continuous, so it lasts on both players' turns. So you can put it in the front row, and he's a little bit. You're probably not going to, but you can. Also, but the main part of it, which makes him your ideal first ride, is that if he's in the soul, you counterblast 1, put him in the bottom of your deck, and soul charge 3 cards. If you have a Doreen on the field, that's an instant plus 15k to her. If you have Dontarian as your Vanguard and a grade 2 win in there, that's you being able to get plus 5k per grade 2 or higher card to your field, to 3 units on your field. Or if, I was about to say it gives a retire. It does not get a retire. It just gives the soul charge a 3. Either way, it's very helpful. There are several times when I would be going into No Life King very early on into the game, and I wouldn't meet the requirement, just play him, and now I meet the requirement. Also helps get you your Dark Soul Conductors into soul faster. Now this is a card that I'm teching at the moment that it's situational, but I like it and it can be very powerful in certain situations. And it's called Pathfinder of Wind. Its effect is simple. Well, most of these effects are simple. When you reveal a trigger, you can soul charge that trigger and then soul charge an extra 2 cards. So if you get a trigger, you can turn that into 3. You can turn that into another 3 soul charges. Which again, if you have Doreen, your most important unit on the field, that turns a single trigger from being a plus 10k into being a plus 25k to your Doreen. And again, that's per trigger. So if you pull more than one trigger, that could go from 25 to 50. If you're going off of No Life King term where you're drop checking 6 different cards, that 25 to 50 can become 75, 100,000, very quickly. It has actually done that before. But outside of that, it ends up not being too good of a card. So I ran 2 just because I want to see it, but I don't want to see it too often. But it's a good card, or at least in my opinion, it's a good card. Now, our last great one is Alluring Succubus at 2. And Alluring Succubus' only function is to, besides putting yourself in the soul, is to try to get the correct grade 3. Because you'd rather be on Dontarian without being on No Life King. You don't want to first ride into No Life King. It is not a good first ride. So having her is supposed to help get you the grade 3 that you want. And you can put 1 into your soul and 1 into your hand. So if you see one of your finishers, shove it into the soul. If you see your Dontarian, grab it to your hand. Or if it's later in the game and you need your No Life King, add your No Life King into your hand. Unfortunately, she keeps missing for me, but that's just having bad luck. But her function should still come off more than it does. But it's still a good card. And despite my luck with it, I have not decided to take it out. That's it for the units. We can go into the triggers. 4 draw trigger perfect guards, nothing too special. We play 2 extra draw triggers. These will turn into crits because beforehand, in the previous build of the deck, I needed to have more draw power so that way I can get into the cards that actually soul charge. But since you soul charge so much more consistently and so much more easily now, this actually just makes you deck out faster. So getting rid of these for the crits, it was useful before, but in the current build of the deck, it is not as useful. But I don't know why I'm gonna move the triggers. We're not done yet. Then we have 4 draw triggers, which again, this is actually one of my favorite heals in the game. My favorite is Elaine, but he comes as a close second. And then the rest of them are just the crits. Again, this will be 8 crits. I just did not do them yet. But that's basically it for the deck profile here. Pretty straightforward deck, but it's much more fun to play now than it used to be when your only real option was just going into No Life King or bust. But Dontarian has opened up multiple options for this deck, and including to cards like Dimension Creeper, Pathfinder, Wind, all cycling well into Doreen the Thruster, who is just basically a future-proof card. But real fun deck to play. By this point, there are already going to be some matches with it up. But yeah, that's been it for this.
All right, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Striders
Out.